Okay, so you want to be a food service director.
Yeah.
Maybe you already are one, but want to really level up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've got your deep dive today.
Yeah.
We're diving into a treasure trove of info straight from Indeed.com about what it takes. We even got some common interview questions, what hiring managers are really looking for, all that juicy stuff.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is, but that's why we have you here, expert speaker, to break it all down. And trust me, listeners, you are going to want to take notes.
Get those pens ready.
So, we all know that delicious food is key in this game.
Of course.
But what LSE makes a food service director stand out? Expert speaker, when you were looking through Indeed's insights and data, what were the top traits that interviewers are really searching for?
Yeah, so the magic word, honestly, is leadership.
Okay.
But, and this is where it gets interesting, Indeed really emphasizes this balance between leadership qualities and actual practical expertise. It's not enough to just be a culinary genius.
Right.
You got to manage people, manage systems like an absolute pro.
So it's less about being the master chef back there and more about orchestrating this whole culinary show, right?
Exactly. Imagine this, right? Your kitchen's buzzing. You've got this whole team with different personalities, different skill sets, and a great food service director. They're not just crafting the menu. They're motivating that team to execute it flawlessly, navigating conflicts like a pro, and creating a culture of rock-solid food safety.
It's like conducting a symphony, but of flavor and efficiency.
Absolutely.
And that takes some serious leadership, huh?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, that actually leads perfectly into our next point, because Indeed is very clear about the importance of food safety knowledge.
Right.
But, and it's a big but, it's not enough to just know the rules. You have to live and breathe food safety.
It's got to be second nature.
Yeah, you're constantly training, constantly checking, because at the end of the day, food safety, that's customer trust.
100%.
So a top-notch food service director, they're always reinforcing those best practices, staying updated on regulations, and addressing any potential issues before they even become issues.
It's almost like you need a sixth sense, right?
Right?
For potential hazards.
Exactly. But, and this is important, let's not forget about the business side of things.
Right.
Indeed is very clear about this too. You need to be a budget whisperer.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
The financial symphony conductor, right?
There you go. This is where you really show off that business acumen.
Right.
You're not just making delicious food, you're thinking strategically about the ingredients you're using, staffing, how to allocate resources. Every culinary choice has financial implications, and you got to be mindful of that.
Okay, so we've got leadership, we've got food safety, we've got this strategic mind for budgets. That sounds like the recipe for a standout candidate.
Yeah.
But how do you actually showcase these things to employers? How do you really wow them? Well, that's where our next section comes in, acing the interview.
Love it. Let's get into it. Yeah, because anyone can just list those skills on a resume, right?
Totally. It's all about showing, not telling.
Exactly. So let's talk about how to really showcase them in an interview, because that's where the magic happens.
It's showtime.
It is. And Indeed gave us some doozies, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah, they did. Some real nail biters in there.
Yeah.
Speaking of nail biters, expert speaker, what about that question about handling team conflict? They give this whole scenario about mediating a disagreement between staff. What really wows you in that situation?
See, anyone can say, oh, I talked it out,
Right. I'm such a good communicator.
Yeah, but that's the bare minimum. That's table scraps. I want to see a candidate who can actually dive into the how. Did you actively listen to both sides? Did you understand the root of the conflict? Not just the surface level squabble, but where is this actually coming from?
Right.
And then did you find a solution that actually addressed everyone's needs and maybe even made the team stronger because of it? That's leadership.
It's like turning lemons into lemonade.
Yes.
But with, workplace drama instead of lemons.
Exactly. Speaking of potentially sour situations, let's talk about those dreaded food safety violations. This is where things get real.
High stakes.
Mm-hmm.
High stakes. So how does a candidate prove they're not just regurgitating the rule book, that they're truly proactive about food safety?
This is where that whole always training, always checking that really comes into play. Because a stellar candidate, they don't just tell me what they would do if a violation happens. They're showing me they've got this proactive mindset.
Okay.
They're talking about systems they've implemented, the training they've provided, all designed to minimize those risks before they even become violations.
So that's like instead of waiting to put out the fire, they've already built the fire station.
Exactly.
Complete with training drills and everything.
Yes, yeah.
Let's be real. Sometimes stuff happens, right?
Oh, absolutely. Things happen. And that's what I want to hear about, too. Because when those curveballs inevitably come, the ideal candidate, they stay calm, they take swift action, they have a clear plan for immediate remediation, but also long-term prevention. They own the situation.
So it's crisis management, but with extra, food safety sprinkles on top.
Exactly. You got it.
Okay.
Now, ready to shift gears a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
From crisis mode to profit-boosting mode.
Hit me with it.
All right, so Indeed talks about this profitability question, and rightfully so. This is a business after all. But this is where I really want to see those candidates go beyond those generic answers.
Yeah. Give me specifics.
Give me an example. I want to hear something like, at my previous restaurant, I noticed our weekend food waste was through the roof, right? So I dove into our sales data, analyzed everything. I adjusted our prep schedule based on actual customer demand, and bam, we reduced waste by 15%, saved the company thousands of dollars annually.
It's turning data into dollars.
Yes.
Or saving dollars, I guess.
There you go.
From that.
Yeah. It shows you're not just passionate about the food, you're passionate about the business of food.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've covered leadership skills. We've talked about how to really crush those tough interview questions.
Yeah.
But let's zoom out for a second. Let's look at the bigger picture. Because Indeed also mentions this whole idea of starting in lower roles and working your way up.
Mm-hmm.
So, expert speaker, how does that early experience, even if it's not in a management position, how does that shape someone into becoming an amazing food service director later on?
That's such a good point, because this isn't one of those careers where you just magically become the director,
You don't just appear.
You don't just appear, yeah. It often starts with those entry-level positions, prepping, line cooking, maybe even bussing tables. And I know those might seem a million miles away from directing an entire operation.
Sure.
But they build this foundation of practical, hands-on experience that is so valuable as you climb the ladder.
So you're paying your dues, you're learning the ropes from the ground up.
Exactly. It's not even just the skills themselves, it's absorbing that rhythm of a professional kitchen, understanding how all the different roles work together, and developing this deep respect for the hard work that goes into every single dish.
Yeah.
And trust me, that firsthand experience, gold. When you're managing a team later on, you've walked in their shoes, you get it.
You've been there.
You've been there.
Right. To lead, you must first learn to follow.
Exactly. And that actually leads perfectly into another big takeaway from Indeed, and this is huge. Continuous learning.
Right.
This isn't a field where you can just coast on yesterday's knowledge.
Right, because the food industry is constantly changing.
Yeah.
What does continuous learning actually look like for a food service director?
It's about being a lifelong student of this world. Attend those industry conferences. There are specialized certifications out there, food safety, sanitation, even niche culinary techniques you can learn. And then, of course, let's not forget all the amazing online resources we have, webinars, courses, publications. There's always something new to discover.
So it's this constant cycle of absorbing new information, trying it out, refining your skills.
Exactly. Because of food service director's success, it hinges on your ability to adapt, evolve, and really lead your team into the future of food.
It really is, having a backstage pass to all the coolest culinary secrets.
All right.
But it's also, you mentioned this earlier, it ties back into that service heart of the food service director role.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we've talked leadership, we've talked business smarts, but at the end of the day, it's about people, right?
It is.
It's about creating an environment where your team can thrive.
Yeah, and a truly great food service director, they get that. They're not just, barking orders. They're investing in their team's training. They're recognizing achievements. They're fostering this culture of respect, of collaboration.
Right, because happy team equals happy customers, right?
100%.
It's that whole rising tide thing.
Exactly.
But with, extra deliciousness.
I love that. And it goes beyond the kitchen doors, too, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because a food service director, They're often the face of the entire operation. They're building relationships with suppliers, vendors, the local community even.
Oh, totally. They've
Yeah.
got to be master networkers.
Yeah, negotiators, ambassadors, you name it. They embody that power of food to really bring people together.
It's not just about what's on the plate. It's that whole ecosystem around it,
You
right?
got it.
Yeah,
That's such a great way to put it. It's recognizing that food connects us, it creates experiences, it makes a real impact.
absolutely. Well, expert speaker, we have covered so much ground today, from interview questions to like the impact you can have on your team, on your community.
It's a big job.
It is a big job, but it sounds so rewarding.
Oh, it is.
So for our listeners out there, what's like the one thing you want them to remember from this whole deep dive?
I would say remember this. Being a food service director, it is a challenging role. It's fast-paced, it's demanding, but it's also incredibly rewarding. And if you bring that passion for food, that dedication to excellence, and that commitment to always learning, always growing, you'll have all the ingredients you need to succeed.
I love that. Expert speaker, you have been a fountain of knowledge as always. I feel like I need to go whip up a celebratory meal in your honor now.
Well, I'll bring dessert.
Maybe that's a date. And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of food service directors. Keep those culinary dreams alive, and we will catch you on our next episode.